Welcome to The Art of Medicine, the program that explores the arts, business, and clinical aspects of the practice of medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Wilner. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Bijoy John, a board certified sleep specialist practicing in Franklin, Tennessee, just around the corner from my studio here in Memphis. Dr. John is author of Nobody's Sleeping: 7 Proven Sleep Strategies for Better Health and Happiness. Dr. John has seen just about every type of sleep problem imaginable, and he's going to give us some tips so all of us can achieve better sleep. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, locumstory.com. Maybe you're curious about locums and how it might fit into your career story, but do you know all the different reasons physicians choose locums and how it works for them? At locumstory.com, you can hear firsthand stories as diverse as physicians themselves. There's not one solution for everyone. The variety of opportunities might surprise you. Locum Story is an unbiased educational resource. It has tools that let you explore trends in your specialty and compare different locums agencies. There's even a simple quiz to see if locums is right for you. Do your own research at locumstory.com. It's easy. And now to my guest. Welcome, Dr. John.
Thanks, Dr. Wellner, to happy to be on your show. It's a great, we all deal with, the kind of like a similar thing, sleep neurology. So I'm really excited to share my experience with your audience and help everyone sleep better and make the world a better place.
Yes, and now that you mention that, way back when, I had forgotten about this, when I was completing my neurologic residency in Montreal at McGill, I was looking for a fellowship and I got very interested in sleep, because there is a lot of overlap. And of course, it has to do with how the brain works. And we make, I think we consolidate our memories during sleep. And we certainly don't function very well neurologically if we don't sleep. So clearly it was important. And this is a long time ago, I think, before it was really as well known as an issue that we all need to address. And I actually had an interview at Stanford for their sleep medicine fellowship. And so I went there with my, I think, girlfriend at the time. And it was a big deal going to Stanford. And I found the sleep lab. And the director of the sleep lab, who was supposed to interview me, never showed up. And so I was just there, right? And all the admins were running around in circles trying to find him, and nobody knew where he was. So I became a neurologist instead. An epileptologist is what I did my fellowship in. But I still, despite that early experience, have been very interested in sleep. So when I saw your book, which is very comprehensive, I looked it over. I said, "You're the guy to talk to." So how did you get interested in sleep?
I mean, every stages of our life, our sleep changes, and we are victims of poor sleep. In med school, I never slept. But then I knew, even during exams, I knew if I rested well, my exam scores were much better than if I burnt the candle, right? So I knew sleep is something very unique. Then during fellowship, ICU training, critical care, I was basically a shift worker. Then I know how cranky I am the next day, right? So then I become a business owner, the decisions you have to make, and then when I lost my mom, the grief. So I'm able to know how it is not to sleep. And through my 25 years as a sleep specialist, I've defined these 7 proven sleep strategies, which I practice in my own life. So I said, and then I've helped thousands of patients over the course of my career. I said, let me take you to the next level. Let me write a book, so more people can benefit from it. This is a holistic method. I'm not that I'm anti-medications, but sometimes I do. But most of the time, chronic insomnia, we can, do much better. So, and then I'm on many shows, TV, radio, and I'm on your show. And also, I want everybody to know the superpower. Like you mentioned, you're better when you sleep better. We have it. It's free. It affects all parts of our body, cognitive activity, heart, diabetes, blood pressure, academic, athletic. sexual performance, all is affected by sleep. So, hey, why not? Let's discover the superpower.
Right. So I assume that the director of your fellowship program actually showed up when you went to interview, right? So you
He
you
was there.
completed you
Yeah,
completed a sleep fellowship, right? So
we did
additional
have this.
training after your additional training in critical care and ICU medicine.
That's right.
I also want to emphasize something you said is that medications are usually not the answer. There are situations, but for the vast majority of people, getting proper sleep is a lifestyle issue with interventions that may be important, like for sleep apnea, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But it's really more lifestyle. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. See, like any medicines you take, just like alcohol, our body gets tolerant to it. So then we need higher dosage, different class of medications. Same thing with, you have a buzz after, a glass of wine, then you need two, then you need three. Same thing with medications, a body develops tolerance, but you don't need any of it. We are a melatonin factory. We also make GABA and sleep medication, sleep promoting chemicals like adenosine. We are the factory. We need to find a way to harness our body's power to secrete these chemicals.
Now, there was a phrase in your book that I want to read. Sadly, sleep disorders are slow killers. All right, so tell us about that.
So, I also mentioned, sleep problems don't hurt like a toothache, right? If you have a pain or if it's a cancer that's growing, we're going to take care of it immediately. But sleep problems, you can put it away, but years of not treating it adds up. Chronic fatigue or a mental fog, can even have an accident, snoring, sleep apnea. You don't take care of, then you have blood pressure problems. So we don't pay instant attention because there's no instant gratification, right? So
Mm.
we compromise on sleep, but it adds up. Just think about it. If you compromise your sleep 1 hour for a night and you do that for a week, it's like almost you didn't sleep one whole night. So you're walking with a sleep debt. Many people, I do believe, are walking with a sleep debt.
Can you catch up?
Correct. So I do prescribe something called bed rotting. I tell people to unplug and just sleep. My kids, when they were in college, they never slept, but they said they have a sleep problem. I said, no, you don't have a sleep problem. You have a sleep debt or insufficient sleep. So when they came home, I took away all the gadgets. I just fed them and they slept for 14 hours for 2, 3 days, and then they wake up ready to go. But in today, what's happening is bed rotting is it's kind of like becoming mainstream, but people bring their gadgets to the bed and then you don't no longer become bed rotting. You are actually, revving up your system. So that's a little caveat there. But I do, you can make it up, 2, 3 days and even, taking, some naps, you can make up the time.
Let's talk about screens for a moment. I have several questions. First, do you think that sleep problems are worse today, now that everyone has a screen, than they were, say, 10 years ago when screens weren't quite so ubiquitous? Do you think that's made a big difference?
Absolutely. See, the usage of social media and our cell phones is more addictive than any medication known to man because it provides us so many levels the gratification. If you're seeking knowledge, if you want to take revenge, if you want to make a harsh comment, you have it all. Human curiosities
Mm.
fulfill. But the challenge is all that information comes from a light source. We are creatures of light. We wake up in the morning at the crack of dawn when the sun comes out. But you're taking these devices to your bedroom, and the light is telling your brain, it goes from your eyes to the brain and tells, hey, it's still daytime. And just, I mean, I know, I'm just trying to educate everyone. The melatonin is only secreted in darkness and cold temperature. The word mela means darkness, right? But that's so
Mm.
you don't secrete your own melatonin. So there lies the problem. You asked me about increasing sleep time. Unfortunately, what happened after COVID, people started working from home and then they started taking their devices and the computers into the bedroom. So when you open this light, from the computer, especially in your bedroom, there's no ambient light. It's more powerful than looking at your computer or a phone in another room where there's ambient light. So it compounds the problem.
Now, I'm not trying to make any promotion here, but Kindles are different in the way that they have light. Is that a better solution if you want to read than reading on your phone, or doesn't it make any difference? Or
It
is it the
does make
reading
it a
itself? Is it the reading itself that's the problem?
in reading itself, and then plus the light. It's the analogy I give there is difference between Coke and Diet Coke, right? And so the light and the blue light filters, but it's still the source of light which we are
Uh,
trying to eliminate. Plus, not to mention all the notifications, you're tempted to look at other things, you're tempted to catch up on your emails. So the electronics into the bedroom. So, I mean, maybe we'll talk in our strategies, but I tell people, just like a TSA screener, when you're entering your bedroom, if you have any electronics on you, beep, you got to leave it outside. I leave my electronics far away. I set an alarm. There's no access. Not only for that reason, in the middle of the night, if you're tempted to wake up and you look at the clock or your phone, it's 3 o'clock. Oh, wow, it's only 3 o'clock. So it increases the cognitive activity. So for many reasons, I tell people not to have the phone near you.
Maybe that's a product we could work on together is a gadget screener, like they have at the airport. And you put that
Mhm.
at the door to your bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
going to bed and the screener goes off and you
Yes,
got
you
to
can.
drop your stuff in the bucket. Otherwise, you can't go to bed. I mean, it sounds a little drastic, but, it is very hard to divest yourself and of those of other family members, I would say, of their screens, right?
Yes, growing up, when my children were growing up, I had this rule that we all put our phones in the main area family room. We put all our phones in this basket and charged and gave it a rest. And they still thank me today that, when they get too much into this phone business, they go and put it in there. And because they knew they can, because I taught them a few years ago. So that's an easy thing. But as parents, we have to do it too, so we have to put it away and you have to prepare to bed, like sleep is not an on and off switch we want it to be. But if you're going to sleep at 10, the preparation should start around 8 o'clock and you need to, wind down, have that, you're inviting melatonin, darkness, slow things, calming your mind, calming your body, all those things we have to prepare as we get closer to bedtime.
Okay, so let's use that as an intro into these tips. Now, you don't have to divulge all of them. People are going to read the book, but that's one of them, right? Is that bedtime is not okay, it's 10, I got to go to bed. That it's like, well, bedtime's coming up, I have to prepare. So how do you prepare to go to bed?
All right, so I have an acronym. The 7 strategies, I have an acronym. That's not in the book, but that's in my course. It's called Sleep Now, SLEEPNOW. So that's an easy acronym everybody can remember. So let's go with step by step. S is the schedule. For any plan to succeed, we need to have a schedule. So we need to have a bedtime routine 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Why? So we get the sweet sleep or the deep sleep or the stage 3 of non-REM sleep early in the night. During the daytime or closer, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, we are dominated with REM sleep, which is not very rested. So there's a need to go to sleep early, and that's why early to bed and early from bed. So we have to have a schedule. So a little caveat here: some people who struggle to sleep, what they do, they don't fall asleep till midnight. They were going to bed at 10. They actually go to bed earlier trying to invoke sleep. No, you need to get closer to the time you fell asleep. Like if you go to bed at 10 and you fall asleep at midnight, you need to go to closer to 11:30. That's called sleep restriction. Yeah, the example I give here to people is you don't sit at a dinner table to get hungry. You go there when you're hungry. Same thing, you need to go to bed when you're tired. So just general rules, that's a whole topic by itself. So that's the S. Then is low light, low noise, low temperature. We talked about the light temperature. Human melatonin is secreted optimally at lower temperature. That's why when you travel to your tropical vacation, you don't sleep that much because melatonin gets optimally secreted. When our the room temperature and your body temperature is lower, and of course, noise is an irritant to our brain waves, and you don't sleep well. So low noise is a great. So then next is the E in the acronym, SLE. No to electronics at least 30 minutes prior. Like we talked about the light infiltrating our eyes and telling our brain, I leave it outside. So it's a huge problem. We're compromising for the extra hours to be on our gadgets from compromising our sleep, right? Where does that extra 2 3 hours come from? We are all compromising, including myself. I catch myself, and I have to remind myself of that. So that's the E. The next E is exercise. When you exercise, you're releasing endorphins, and also your body core temperature is higher. Remember, melatonin is only secreted in lower temperatures. So make sure you don't exercise, at least two hours prior to going to sleep. Ideally 4, but up to 2 hours is reasonable. So you bring your core body temperature low, and melatonin secretes 30 minutes prior to the core body temperature dropping. So very, very important thing. And so there's so here also is a little catch. You are actually calming your mind, and now you're calming your body. And then now is the P in the acronym. It's called power off your mind. So I teach two techniques. One's called vivid imagination. I am one of those guys promoting this for sleep. So you start thinking about the last movie you saw or the sports activity. You become the director. You don't want to think about the bills or problems, work problems, family problems in bed. You want to be going into the abstract. I've been practicing this for almost 30 35 years myself. When I lay in bed, I'm not thinking about anything. So I'm only thinking about some, abstract, so I enter a dream right there. So, and also another technique how to power off your mind is by doing something called yoga nidra. So you lay on your back with your palms up and start focusing on different parts of the body, starting from the scalp. This is the cognitive behavioral therapy of insomnia or progressive muscle relaxation. Nidra means nothingness. So if you want to think about something, you can focus on your body. So these are the two techniques, very powerful techniques to calm your, power off your mind. But remember, you have to give your body a chance by doing the other things. So next is NO, no to worries in bed. I was getting ready for your show yesterday. I do a dedicated worrying time between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. I look at everything, what I need to do. I'm done after that. I write it down, I tackle it the next day. I'm not going to bring it to my bedroom to resolve problems. That's not, I'm using my vivid imagination technique. So we all worry. We are all creatures of, we are worry warriors, but we have to worry outside the bed, not. So no to worries. Take a dedicated worrying time. And then W is the last one. You win actually in this process by losing yourself, right? Win, 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 your hustle culture. Here you win by keeping your bedtime routine very simple. Sleep is natural. It will come to you. So this is how the Sleep Now acronym is very powerful. It's worked for many thousands of people. So I do it. So like I give the analogy, if you have your electronics with you, beep. If you have worries with you, beep. If you're having like tight clothes and all that, beep. So you leave it all, relax, go to bed. Sleep is natural. You don't have to work too hard at it. It will come to you.
I've heard the part about leaving the cell phone out of the bedroom
Yes.
before. I think
Mhm.
people are tempted to because now it has an alarm clock, right? So, but if it's within arm's reach, it's like the apple, of Adam and Eve. It's a constant temptation
Mhm.
to see if somebody responded or a notification or gee, is that email coming in yet? And what do I have to do tomorrow? My calendar's there, and then there's a new episode on Netflix. I mean, it's really infinite temptations in every sphere of humanity sitting on your bedside table.
Correct. And also, I think people are talking about the radiation and all that. So there's another benefit. So I keep it a little bit far away in my bathroom, and I set an alarm. Then I have to literally wake up and, turn up. I'm awake. If you have it closer, you're going to hit the snooze button. And for young teenagers, it's a major problem. They want to check the likes and the stuff that they have on the post they made. And then in the middle of the night, you wake up. We all wake up. I woke up last night. I keep my sleep shape and I come back to bed. But then there's a phone. Even I tell people not to have electronics in your bedroom and like clocks and all that. So you don't want to know the time. You just keep your sleep shape and come back to sleep.
Mm.
And I woke up. I mean, I wake up once a night. That's very common because your sleep cycle is very dominant. You go in from REM to non-REM, and sometimes you wake up. So, but then you're tempted. Keep it away. These things will improve your sleep by at least 40 or 50%. It will take about a week, and then you can, and people are going to change their lives.
Let me ask you a question that has some personal interest. Is it true that as one ages, you need less sleep, or is that a myth?
So that's a great question. Sleep is great until age 20, but after that, every decade, for many reasons, responsibility, raising a family, stress, and then medical conditions like sleep apnea, restless legs, all that creep up. And women, the sleep is, extra, responsibility of raising children and having a baby, pregnancy. But then when menopause happens, their sleep is completely gone out because of the hot flashes and predispositions to sleep apnea. So I dedicated a chapter for women on that topics. So, but as we grow by age 70, your sleep is completely gone or very poor because of many reasons. Your brain starts to shrink and there's less chemicals produce, hormones to sleep produce. So, but you need to sleep still 7 and 8 hours. And then that's why I dedicated a chapter for older adults because they don't have job. They take a nap during the day, which is counterproductive. They tend to go to bed earlier. They are vulnerable for something called advanced sleep phase syndrome. And then you wake up in the middle of the night, disturb the rest of the family. So there are little tips you can do. So to answer the question, yes, sleep gets worse, but do you still need 7 or 8 hours? Yes, absolutely you need. But it's harder to get. You have to work at it. But then all the other things creep in.
I wanted to go back to you were talking about exercise, and I just wanted to emphasize that exercise is very important for good sleep, just not right before you go to sleep. You mentioned 2 to 4 hours. So I didn't want people to get confused about that because exercise will benefit sleep, but not before sleep. Is that correct?
So, Andrew, there's this great research coming out. I think I mentioned a little bit in my book about the muscles are making chemicals or hormones to help us sleep. This is new data. So, you always knew the hardworking laborers slept well, right?
Hmm.
And so now we are looking, we always thought brain is the only place all these hormones play. But now we know muscles. So it's a great excitement in the field of sleep medicine. That's the next frontier. They've studied in animals and they found out these muscle, the hormones produced by the muscles. So exercise is great, but not closer to bedtime, because the heat from the body will affect secretion of melatonin.
Let's talk for a moment about people that have chronic diseases. Talk about diabetes or congestive heart failure or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. These are things that for the most part never go away. Once you got them, you're stuck with them. You have to manage them, take medicines for them. How does sleep or the lack of it affect these chronic illnesses?
So that's a great question. So when I see somebody for a sleep problem, the sleep problem it is the tip of the iceberg of a lot of other problems, including mental health, right? And then you have congestive heart failure, you're short of breath, you're not breathing, COPD, you're short of breath, and same thing with the asthma. And then diabetics take, the hyperglycemia is a diuretic. You go to the restroom, and sometimes the medications you take, beta blockers, diuretics, all affect your sleep. So I ask them as I go through the history, do you have a psychological problem? Do you have a medical problem? Do you have a sleep disorder or you just can't sleep, the chronic insomnia? And so now we define chronic insomnia as core morbid insomnia. There's other conditions. So, but when you sleep well, if for example, COPD, you recruit your muscles, your muscles are more relaxed and you can breathe better the next day. Same thing with asthma. When people who sleep poorly, have worsening of asthma symptoms, and people who have worse asthma because of shortness of breath, they can't sleep. So you have to address all that. So that's why my background in medicine, pulmonary critical care, helps me to help the folks much better because I'm able to go through my checklist. It's not just sleep problems. So the big topic is the sleep and mental health. Sleep and anxiety have a bi-directional relationship. When you are anxious, you don't sleep well. When you don't sleep well, you're anxious. So it's a vicious cycle. But you can heal better by sleeping better. So in the world, that's what I tell people. When you have a problem in the world or any practical problems that you have, we don't say let's exercise on it or diet on it. We'll say let's sleep on it, right? Sleep is huge. It is healing. It's nourishing. It's the superpower, and I want many people to discover their own power.
I agree heartily that sleeping on a problem. I'm getting particularly I sort of came to this conclusion myself when studying for exams. You
Mhm.
never know enough, and the exam's tomorrow morning at 8, and it's like, well, what should I do? Should I just stay up all night, and read that next chapter again, or should I just go to bed? And trial and error, I learned that just going to bed and being fresh, even if there were a few things that I didn't learn that night because I just ran out of time, but being well rested, I would end up with a better score than trying to just cram a few more things in. I
Yes.
would, I endorse that from my own personal experience. Now, a little more abstract question here. How well do people actually document how well do they know if they slept well or not? I have
Wait,
patients
let's
tell me, "Oh, I don't sleep. I don't sleep." And it's like, or I do sleep. And are they right? Can people
so there's
tell?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of variation here, and of course, when it gets to the press, so few people can sleep very little and function normally. Elon Musk, the previous presidents, Trump and Obama, they don't sleep much, but they are born with the genetic lottery. They get a lot of the deep sleep in 3 or 4 hours. They sleep. The rest of us need about 7 or 8 hours to get all the cycles and stages. So to answer the question, if you sleep for 7 or 8 hours as an adult, and then in the morning you wake up and you're still tired, you have a sleep debt, sleep problem, or a medical problem. So there lies the answer. And some people have something called sleep state misinterpretation. These are folks who just don't say they don't sleep well. I just tell them to make a easy, I make them do a sleep log or a sleep journal, and I see the number of hours they sleep. They actually sleep longer than they think, though. So maybe part of the reason also they might not go into deeper sleep. They might be spending a lot of time in stage one or stage two, or in fact, REM sleep, which is not very restful. So that's another little caveat. You can do one of those devices and see. I'm not a big fan of it because it doesn't get the brain waves to quantify sleep, but if something is better, it gets the movements of your hands, and you can get some amount of data from it.
Those little wrist monitors that
Yes.
monitor sleep. Yeah, not scientific devices per se, not medical devices per se, but they may give you some. I guess if your hand is moving all night long, you're really not sleeping.
Correct.
Um, so when should someone see someone like you? When should you see a sleep specialist?
All right. Obviously, if you snore, you have this major treatable condition called sleep apnea, which affects all parts of our body. So if you snore, that's one. If you cannot sleep and you're tired and you're in a bad mood, that's called insomnia. Or if you sleep too much, there's a condition called hypersomnia or narcolepsy. So snoring, big warning sign. If you don't sleep well or sleep enough, that's insomnia. Number three, if you sleep too much, it's called hypersomnia. These are the big three that people come and see me all the time.
Now, I didn't realize that snoring was always pathological. My grandfather was famous for his snoring, and we would visit him. I mean, you could not sleep in the same room with him. I mean, the walls would vibrate. And but we did not identify it as a medical issue, and he lived till he was 96. He did pretty good, but maybe he would have lived longer. So is snoring something that really should be taken as a medical symptom?
Yes, absolutely. So when you have a pipe and the pipe is narrowed, like I'm telling about a water pipe, you creates turbulence. Same thing with our airway. When our airway is narrowed, air has to go through a narrow passage, and that creates the Venturi effect or the turbulence. That's the snoring. So snoring equals air going through a narrow passage, period. In children, the tonsils, easy fix. Both my children snored. They had, tonsils. I took them. They were tired. I used to take them to school. They're sleeping in the back. So, fix. That's an easy fix. Adults is a little complicated because the whole tissue collapses in the back of
Mhm.
the throat. The tongue falls back, especially when you're sleeping on your back, the tongue collapses on your back. So, snoring 100% is a sign of obstruction, and we need to get help ASAP.
Very valuable tip. Dr. John, this is fantastic. And this is all great, really actionable information, as they say. So, anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
So sleep is powerful. We tend to compromise our sleep to do other things. But I say if you sleep enough and 1 or 2 hours extra, you are much more productive. You're supercharged. You can achieve a lot more in a short of time by sleeping better and being in a great mood and being the best version of yourself. So everybody needs to know that. And we in this field are trying to promote good sleep. So fortunately, people are becoming aware of sleep.
Dr. Bijoy John, thanks for joining me on the art of medicine.
Thank you. And people can buy my book. It's called Nobody's Sleeping, or visit my website, sleepfixacademy.com. And I'm also in all the social media platforms as Dr. Sleepfix. So follow me and let's learn together.
Yes, I'll put that information in the show notes.
Sleep well and be well, everyone.
Before we close, I'd like to give another thanks to our sponsor, locumstory.com, a resource where providers can get real, unbiased answers about locum tenens. I'm Dr. Andrew Wilner. See you next time. This program is hosted, edited, and produced by Andrew Wilner, MD, FACP, FAAN. Guests receive no financial compensation for their appearance on the art of medicine. Andrew Wilner, MD, is Associate Professor of Neurology at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center, Memphis, Tennessee. Views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this program belong solely to Dr. Wilner and his guests and not necessarily to their employers, organizations, or other group or individual. While this program intends to be informative, it is meant for entertainment purposes only. The Art of Medicine does not offer professional financial, legal, or medical advice. Dr. Wilner and his guests assume no responsibility or liability for any damages, financial or otherwise, that arise in connection with consuming this program's content. Thanks for watching. For more episodes of The Art of Medicine, please subscribe. www.andrewwilner.com